even in a society that upholds the notion that every child should be loved and protected. What happened to Nevaeh Allen is a tragic tale of what can go terribly wrong. This case delves into the sorrowful existence of a 5-month-old baby who was left covered with her feces and soiled clothes. It is also in this darkness that lies the journey of hope and transformation that needs to happen. As you will, we tell you the story of Nevaeh, which reveals the most astonishing aspects of the violence she has endured and the most important things that need to be done so that this will not happen ever again. However, it is not merely a story of grim occurrence, but more so of a clarion call to every one of us that a child must never be permitted to remain silent again. Prepare yourself for an amazing journey filled with panic, love, pain, and fight for justice in the case of Nevaeh Allen. The background of Nevaeh Allen and Laniah Cardwell, mother, and Philip Gardner, mother's boyfriend. Nevaeh Allen was a 5-month-old baby girl whose life was plagued by extreme abuse and neglect. That may have been a tropical storm on September 19, 2003, however, it marked only the end of an abusive childhood for Nevaeh Allen. A child of that age must be very careful, as Nevaeh was a delicate age. Fortunately, she was in a terrible plight because she lived with people who were incapable of making her feel treasured and touched. These factors surrounding her background sealed her fate. Laniah Cardwell, who is Nevaeh's mother, was not good at balancing her parenting duties and carrying out her life in a way that does not put the infant at risk. It is reported that she had made many wrong decisions and moves in terms of relationships. Where her mother's focus was dominated by relationships, where Nevaeh had to adapt to circumstances, ones that were ill-social, her welfare fostered neglect. Laniah's relationship with Philip Gardner made the situation worse as people moved in and out and the living situation became disorganized, which was bad for Nevaeh. Philip Gardner was the partner of Laniah Cardwell and was active in the family dynamics. It is true that in addition to that, Nevaeh had Gardner, which brought an additional layer of instability in her life. Gardner's attitude and impact were a part of the neglect and abuse that Nevaeh had received. Nevaeh's life with Laniah and Philip was, on the other hand, full of risks and unreasonable expectations of trying to take care of her, only ending up in further abuse and neglect. Overview of the case. The case of Nevaeh Allen is an example of a reported child abuse and neglect case. A 5-month-old Nevaeh sustained gruesome injuries owing to the child's parents' gross neglect. Her parents took 4 days to seek for medical attention, even when it was evident that she was in a very serious condition. Such delay and type of injuries evoked more curiosity from the law enforcement officials. The investigations carried found a history of abandonment which called into question the parents' aptitude in childcare. The case has generated anger and alarm regarding the role of parents and the worth of dealing with child abuse cases before they escalate. Community's perspective fundamentally focused on prevention of Nevaeh's maltreatment and similar ones from recurring. Nevaeh's experience of abuse. Nevaeh Allen experienced horrific abuse, taking her beatings and mistreatment in an entirely new level. Her body had many wounds, including some broken ribs, and there was a lot of blood in her brain and mouth too. The evidence of these injuries showed that the ill treatment was not an isolated act. It was done deliberately. It is also unfortunate to realize that Nevaeh's parents took 4 days before they took her to a hospital, which aggravates her problem. It was only when her health went to a dangerous level that medical caregivers came in. When the healthcare providers got to see her, Das shocked at her cuts. Indeed, it took quite a walk, then these childish discussions, as Das leeway for many readers. Because the behavior that accompanies extreme child abuse raises workforce safety issues. The child turned out predominating by the clinical approach, poor calculating skills. In this part of the case, realism tends to regret every possibility. Parental neglect and delay in seeking help. The fact that Nevaeh's parents took 4 days to take their daughter to a doctor demonstrates an extreme abandonment of their parental obligations. In fact, over that period, Nevaeh's situation deteriorated. The postponement raised some striking concerns on their sense of judgment and their capability to take proper care of the child. Policymakers stressed the need for parents to respond quickly in times a child appears to be in distress. Under the circumstances, instead of seeking help, Nevaeh's parents were unable to appreciate the need to act with urgency, choosing their own situation over that of their child. The situation evidences the need for timely engagement in the cases of alleged abuse or neglect in children. and must be utilized as a warning regarding the consequences of inaction when one fears for a child's health. Investigation and arrest. As soon as the governmental bodies had knowledge of the situation and her injuries, they commenced investigating her injuries. Practitioners reported to police, who began the detective work of creating the sequence of events. It was clear thus that the injuries that Nevaeh suffered were results of domestic violence, and mother Nevaeh Cardwell and mother's boyfriend Philip Gardner are charged. Perhaps due to these vices, horrifying details on the health and living conditions within the house and lapses in care of Nevaeh came to light. The law enforcement took the matter to be of high importance, and they concentrated on solving the case so that Nevaeh's ordeal would not go in vain. This part of the case bears testimony to how essential law enforcement and medical personnel are in preventing child abuse and bringing child abusers to justice. Legal proceedings. As the investigation unfolded, however, it met both Nevaeh Cardwell and Philip Gardner with serious dark clouds. They faced charges on child abuse and neglect given their crimes in respect to Nevaeh. Also used are the legal processes to emphasize the importance of responsibility where child abuse is noted, as well as the aspects of child protection. As the court proceedings happened, so did this community, in the hope of seeing justice meted on Nevaeh. This part highlights how the problem of child abuse is systematically addressed and how important this aspect is in prevention of its occurrence. This case also serves to inform that criminal liability is a very important aspect in soothing the feelings of the aggrieved party and influencing the culpable party. Community reaction. One of the reactions realized within the communities in the case of Nevaeh was shock as well as anger. Concern about the abuse motivated concern about children's safety in such contexts. Organizations that campaigned against domestic abuse and other related issues accentuated the need for sensitization and education on child abuse. People's efforts were directed towards the building of campaigns and programs that would ensure that such incidents will never take place again. This section highlights that every member of the society owes duty to ensure children are safeguarded and also to speak up against any form of abuse. Such case further lends itself to policies of child welfare as well as the adequacy of services offered to families in difficulty, showing that children cannot be safe without community involvement and activities. Conclusion and effects. Nevaeh Allen's case is a salient case of the problem that still exists in the society, that is child abuse and neglect. Such an outcome propels the need for efficient intervention measures with the aim of preventing instances of children being succumbed into danger. In the aftermath, there has been an increase of the use of the phrase child welfare policies, which is an advocate for the reduction of child abuse and abuse of families who are in distress. Nevaeh's story will remain in people's mind because it reinforces the fact that children are under threat from parents, societies, and laws, and something has to be done about it. This case allows to continue the practice of advocacy, educational activities to prevent child abuse, as well as their rehabilitation, in order to avert the tragedy like that of Nevaeh's from repeating itself. Thank you for joining us as we explored the tragic case of Nevaeh Allen. This heartbreaking story highlights the urgent need for awareness around child abuse and the responsibility we all share in protecting the vulnerable. If you found this discussion impactful, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more important stories. Your support is vital in helping us raise awareness about these critical issues affecting our children.